Is swimming good for scoliosis? When patients have scoliosis, they're always trying to seek a exercise or a form of activity that could be safe for a scoliosis patient to perform. And one of the most common things on the list tends to be swimming. Patients will come in my office and they'll say, my child has scoliosis, so I immediately put her in swimming because they kind of thought that swimming is actually a way to actually treat scoliosis and actually a way to reduce it. And in fact, at one time, it was actually regarded as a treatment option for scoliosis, that figuring that if patients can swim, they can be removed from gravity and it can kind of stop progression. So it was actually used as a treatment cycle. And so therefore, there's this confusion about understanding how can swimming help or not help? So to understand a little bit about how scoliosis and how swimming are related, we kind of have to understand that what causes progression in scoliosis. There's two main progression factors. Number one is going to be growth. We know curves progress during growth. It's not a response to gravity. In this growth stage and adolescent stage, curves can progress very, very rapidly, and it can progress very rapidly in a very short duration. And this progressive nature of scoliosis in the adolescent is directly related to their speed of growth, meaning the faster they grow in the shorter period of time, the more likely the curve is to progress. It doesn't matter if they're swimming or not swimming. If they're growing, they're more likely going to progress in this stage if the curve isn't progressive in nature. In the adult stage, it's resulting from gravity, meaning gravity slowly pushing down over the spine over the time, leading to curve progression very slowly over their entire life. So it's very slow factor. So if we kind of consider, how can swimming affect those two types of things, meaning either rapid progression during adolescent stage or slow progression in the adult stage, how can swimming actually affect that? Well, it's very kind of mixed because there is some things that show that swimming can actually maybe help, and there's other things that maybe swimming can actually increase trunk deformity, increase the scoliosis from occurring. Well, let's talk about how swimming can possibly be bad. Well, first of all, we understand that we're not meant to be in the water, right? It's not a normal, natural environment for our body. Our spines are meant to deal with gravity. Our body's meant to deal with gravity. So when you're in the water, it's not your natural position. So therefore, it creates like a neurological reaction, meaning the longer you're in water, the less reaction that you have, or your body can adapt to gravity. So when you get out, your body has to adapt into a position that's not normally used to if you're spending an extreme amount of time in the water. But most people, let's say you're swimming conservatively 1 or 2 hours a day at most, then what we're concerned about is during this activity, most people when they swim, they're arching or flattening their mid-back. And we know this can be a bad position for scoliosis because the flatter your thoracic spine or the flatter your mid-back becomes, this can actually lead to increased scoliosis progression and increased progression even in the adult form. So we don't want any kind of flattening of the thoracic spine, and normally that's the most common thing people do when they swim. However, how can swimming be good for scoliosis? Well, we know it's more of a symmetrical motion. You're using your arms and legs very symmetrically. It also removes this concept of compression, meaning if you're not being compressed by gravity, it's an exercise that you can perform outside of compression, so you can help increase your body health and well-being while not trying to increase compression, which is increased compression can lead to more pain. So it can help you exercise in a pain-free environment, and that's where it could be good. So when we look at these two things, how do we know whether if scoliosis is really good and really bad for this particular type of patient? Well, again, it depends on your type of curve. It depends on you as a person. It's not globally good for every scoliosis or globally bad for every single scoliosis. It really depends on your type of scoliosis. What are you doing? What are your goals? And also, what are you doing in addition to help manage your scoliosis over time? When we look at swimming, I look at two main types. We look at competitive swimming versus recreational. Normally, anything competitive could have a negative effect on scoliosis. So if you're doing competitive swimming, we're doing 4 or 5 hours a day, you're having this flattening of the thoracic spine. This is what stimulates progression. We know that because of the flattening occurring. Where you're doing moderate swimming, 1 to 2 hours, it's not going to have nearly as an effect. Just like any type of moderate type of any activity or sport that you're doing always has a lesser effect on the progression of scoliosis over time. So if you're considering swimming to be one of your things that you want to do or activities you want to perform or sports that you want to perform, always consult a treatment provider who understands your scoliosis, before you actually engage in any of these activities without really understanding. And if you are going to do swimming, consider more recreational type of swimming versus competitive, because where competitive swimming is where we think the hours in the water and the hours that you're flattening the spine can reduce any positive effect will be overcome by the negative effect that you're doing as a result of swimming. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this information helpful. If you'd like to hear about other topics and information on scoliosis, type in the comments below and let us know. And finally, subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of when we publish content. Thanks.